Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay, can somebody let me know if you can hear me? You can either post on Piazza or send me a message in the group chat. Okay, thank you. So, looks like people can hear me now. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened last time. We're getting a bad thunderstorm here, so it might have messed up my internet connection. Let me just update the original Piazza post with the link in case anybody else is looking for it. And give everybody else a couple more minutes to join that was on the first call. Okay, so I'm not really sure where it cut out the first time. So I think it was probably somewhere along the lines of the first question. So I'll just start over with that one and we'll make sure that it's covered. So the first question was, how are you going to grade P1? Is there a way to check the correctness of our code? The grading for that one, like for the complex topo, we'll be checking to make sure that all your hosts and switches are there, like all the ones that are required to be there, and we'll also check to make sure you don't have any extra ones. And the same thing for links. We'll be checking to make sure that all of the links between the specific hosts and switches are defined, and making sure that you don't have any extra links between hosts that aren't supposed to be there. And then we'll also be looking at the properties of your links. So the different like bandwidth, delay, and loss that define the Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and 3G. We'll make sure that those are defined correctly and that each link is correctly defined as Wi-Fi, 3G, or the Ethernet, depending on how it shows up in the project PDF. And then the main thing to make sure for that is make sure that all of your hosts and switches are named correctly. Like even if they're there, if the naming convention doesn't match what's in the project PDF, the grader won't pick it up, so you won't be able to get credit for that one. And then the dynamic topo is similar. That one will be looking for the same type of things, and then also making sure that the STP is enabled on your switches. And for that one, it's not necessarily the same as complex topo where we just run it. That one will be checking a couple different test cases for the different number of zones and the different number of hosts. But it'll be just like in the project PDF that says like the zones will be greater than or equal to 3 and the hosts will be greater than or equal to 1. So we won't be checking kind of weird situations where you might have to do some input validation. Don't worry about that. All of the parameters that we pass to your code will work. They won't try to crash anything. So it'll be specifically confined to those test cases. And then for like the simple, I think it's called MN topo, that one we'll just kind of be looking at your bwm.txt file to make sure that all the values kind of look correct and are in a specific range for that one. So you can just kind of compare your graphs. There's one thread on Piazza that has some people are sharing some graphs. So just kind of make sure your graphs look similar to everybody else's. Some variance is expected, especially with the VM. Some of the virtualization things don't always look the same across different people's setup, depending on what your host computer specs are. So it's just kind of making sure that the graph looks pretty much correct and similar to everyone's. And then as far as verifying your topologies are correct, some of the commands that people have shared on Piazza, like the links command and the net command, those are good for kind of dumping out the links that are configured in your topology and making sure that you don't have any extras and you have all the ones that you're expecting to have. And then the dump command is good to kind of dump out your entire topology with all the different like switches and hosts and the different links. That will give you a complete view of the topology. So you can make sure everything is there and you don't have anything extra. And then last, the ping all command is a really good command to make sure that all your links are configured correctly and you don't maybe have any mistakes with the ports and everything can communicate correctly. Like that one, it's fine if it doesn't ping 100% on the first couple of times, but after you've tried a couple of times, it should definitely be pinging 100%, or you probably have a bug in your code. So go back and check that one. Okay, our second question. In the add link method, does the host always need to be the first parameter in the argument, or can the switch be the first argument? And that one, no, it doesn't matter which order they are. The first one is typically referred to as your source, and the second one is the destination, but these links are bidirectional, so it really doesn't matter. The only thing to be aware of in this case, if you're hard coding the ports, port 1 goes with your first, the source. So it's whatever host or switch you configure first. The first port that you specify, port 1, will go to that one, and then the second port will be your destination port, or the matching the second node that you've specified. So order doesn't matter, just make sure that your ports, if you specify those, line up to the order that you specified, your switches or host. And yeah, that one's really only important, the ports, for the first part of the project where we're graphing some of the output and expecting it to be from specific ports, but it doesn't really matter for the dynamic topo or the complex topo which ports you use. You can either specify whatever you want, or Mininet can assign those by default, so you don't even have to specify those if you don't want to. Okay, and then I am new to Mininet. I am looking at the API documentation for the method add link in class topo. Could you please let me know where I might find details about the ops link options? We have the Mininet documentation link. Let me see if I can find the specific parameters options for you. Okay, so I do not, you're right, I don't see, I'm looking at the same topology for the add link, so I don't see it right away, but I know it is out there somewhere, so I will find that and post the link to the thread after office hours have ended. So I'll go ahead and go to the next question, but I will come back this evening and post the link once I find it for the different options. Okay, follow up for the Q1. For dynamic topo, if STP has not been set properly, the ping all would not be successful even after multiple tries. Yes, that's correct. You definitely need that one to be enabled, or else you won't, your code won't run properly. So that one will be pretty obvious if it's not running. So that if you are having issues with the ping all, then that's one thing to look at. And there's also one command that I can share to make sure that that one is enabled. So let me find that and I'll reply to your question with that command. So that's one thing that you can check also if you're having issues.